Not 6:30 yet. Are we ready technically?
Technically, we are recording.
So we have one more minute before the meeting. It is 6:30. Welcome to the April Planning Commission meeting. As I've mentioned, we're going to be timing you tonight, 5 minutes. If you run over a little bit, that's okay, but not 2 minutes over. First item is I would like to introduce Dave Sadler, our new member to the Planning Commission. Welcome, Dave. He's on the BZA also. So he's had quite a bit of experience with town government. The minutes, we're not going to approve tonight. There's been many more changes, so we're going to work on those in the tech meeting and we'll approve those next meeting. First item on the agenda is a rezone at Hadley Road, which has been continued.
Good evening. Ross Holloway here, Holloway Engineering. It's nice to see our familiar faces here. Hopefully towards the end of the pandemic and masks and everything. But anyway, thank you for entertaining our presentation tonight. I've been here many times and I will be as brief as I can. And I think most of you are familiar with the project, having seen it, several reiterations of it over the last 16 years. Anyway, Grand Oaks, formerly Eagles Crossing, back 16 years ago when Moni Homes out of Bloomington presented a PUD for 196 lots. Now a local developer, Sean Stewart, has some partners and they will be developing this project. The comprehensive plan calls for the property to be residential, and there's a slide from Mooresville comprehensive plan with the oval showing approximately where the property is and the yellow indicating it would be residential. There's a slide showing the UDO, what the requirements would be for this land under R1C, which is a request that we're making tonight to change the zoning from its current PUDR to R1C. You can see that maximum height of buildings 40 feet, minimum dwelling would be 1,200 square feet, 2-to-1, 12,000 square foot lots, and some other setbacks, front setback 40, side yard 6, rear 30, and then some percentages of lot coverage. Voluntary commitments, even though the UDO for R1C requires that the minimum be 1,200 square foot, we have some other things that we would be committing to as part of the zoning commitments. These would run with the land. They would not be able to be changed other than through the process of a public hearing before this body and back to the council for an ordinance amendment. And briefly, I'll go through them. They're more or less, in fact, except for one item, they're the same as we presented last time. The homes would be based upon some examples I'll show you in a second here. And the siding would be vinyl. It could be hardy plank, it could be brick, it could be all of those things. But we're saying that if it is in fact vinyl, it would have to be a heavy gauge premium vinyl with a 30-year warranty. Roof pitch 612 or steeper. Eaves a minimum 12 inches from the face of the home. Minimum 1,500 square feet, not less than 1,200 square foot if it's multi-storied. Each dwelling shall have a 2-car attached garage with interior dimensions of 20 by 24 feet. Conversion of the garage to living space is prohibited. Each dwelling will have a concrete driveway not less than 20 feet in width. Homes will have a landscaping package specified by the developer. Item number 3 is a change from what we had presented last month. We had this, some discussions with the neighbors, and so there were several items discussed. The developers, even though they took it under advisement, this is something that they could live with and commit to, since it was would be part of a zoning ordinance commitment. And that is that the landscaping, or the east line and south line, would have a mound not less than 6 feet in height, 3 to 1 side slopes. It would have undulations and serpentines and breaks and things like that you normally think of when you see landscaping mounds around the area. And then there would be 1 canopy tree and 1 understory tree and 10 evergreen trees for every 100 feet. The addition of the evergreen trees and the additional foot in height is a change from the last meeting. Those are the same. These are examples of the type of facade that would be built. I want to point out that there's a mixture of materials here. There is some masonry, there's some vinyl, there's some lap sign. There might even be some cement board, there might be brick. There could be a whole sundry of things to make each dwelling, each home unique. And these are just examples. These would be part of the commitments to show that this is what the homes and development would generally look like with a mixture of materials. Not to say someone couldn't come in and they could request hardy plank, they could request brick, they could request anything they want that their pocketbook and budget would afford. Last time we went through all this presentation about the Builders Association of Greater Indianapolis and the housing data to show, and I don't think I need to belabor this, but most of you are aware based upon articles in the paper and even some of our own recent articles in the area that there's a severe housing shortage in Mooresville and in fact in central Indiana in general. And this baggy report, and these slides are all in your handout, that each year we're going to be in the Indianapolis area 1,750 units short of what's necessary to address the needs of the communities. And much of the new job growth is likely to be below the median wage, and even accounting for a prevalence of 2-earner household incomes, there still remain low, resulting in need for lower cost housing, which goes back to our discussion about the cost of some of the masonry materials that we've discussed previously about how it increases the cost of the homes. In Morgan County, the median cost price of existing home in 2020 was $212,285, and the new home was $213,000, 3.4% new homes. Then this shows the fiscal impact. 196 homes is just happenstance, purely coincidence that 196 homes happens to be the density that's projected for this property once the zoning would be approved and come back to the Plan Commission for platting. So just happenstance. But you can see it's a real impact. 1 year impact, 40.9 million, 7.6 million in taxes, 607 jobs, and then reoccurring impact, 7.5 million and 2.2 million in taxes and revenues for the state and local governments, and 146 jobs. Those are reoccurring every year, annually. So it's not just one and done. And then here we have a forecast shortage of units for Morgan County, 196 units annually forecast to be short, and that looks over 181 annual deficit, I'm sorry. This is a slide that's in there. We looked at the cost of hardy plank, cement board, if you would, and what that does to a cost of a home for 3 different style homes, 1-story, 2-story, and a 2-story of 3,000 square feet. And you can see that added cost, construction cost, for even the smallest home is almost $4,500 goes up to $6,500 for the larger home. And then if you factor in the cost of maintenance over a time period, then it can be as much as $10,000 to $16,000 additional cost over the vinyl siding. We also had a study done by real estate appraiser, residential real estate appraiser, and you can see, and I'll let you read that and I won't belabor it, the bottom line is that there are very few homes, only 9 since 2015 that in the Mooresville area that were built with hardy plank. The vast majority were vinyl siding. And I just put this around and said, and I'll read this, with this statistical data in regards to homes with composite cement board, it appears that there isn't a high demand for this particular type of siding, as less than 6% of the homes that sold last year had it. Cement board siding may be more appealing than other materials where there is more demand for higher end homes. However, the data obtained from Mcguire states that the Mooresville market is not willing to pay for this particular type of siding. And this goes to another issue too. It's not just people aren't willing to pay more, it's that people can't get qualified for loans at the higher prices than when you tack on even $23 a month. Most people are pre-qualified for a loan, they get so much approved, and any increase in cost can put a lot of people out of the housing market, or maybe a house that they would rather have amenities on the inside rather than cement board. These are the prices you've seen many times over. Grand Oaks is anticipated to have a median price of $225,000 to $350,000. You can see Grandview right there immediately and adjoining to the west, $212,000 to $220,000. Roberson Village and Crafton Meadows and some of the others. Yeah, I'm going to let you look through those. Okay. And then just to end up here, the homes that these are typical homes, what they would look like, not specifics, but in general, that's what they would look like. With that, I'll try to answer any questions you might have.
I wasn't here last time, but I've read some minutes and I've went over some different issues. There seems to be a trend in Mooresville that the only thing coming to the Planning Commission is a small home on a small lot and with vinyl siding. If Mooresville continues this trend, you're not going to stop it. The history of this project, back in 2003, Arbor Homes brought that project to this Planning Commission. And it's similar to the project that, or the presentation that's being presented now. It was turned down. In 2006, the project was approved for PUD. That still exists. This property right now is zoned residential PUD and it can be built on now. So there is no reason to say that the Planning Commission hasn't approved this. It has been approved and it's approved right now as we talk. The pictures they're showing a lot of roof pitches that are higher than they're going to build. I think the square footage of those houses are probably larger than a lot of the houses are going to build. So looking at that picture and with the steep roof pitches, it's not really an accurate picture of what the house looks like. I think someone mentioned that last time that we need to increase this tax base. These homes will provide for police, fire, EMS services, and help pay the teachers. Well, that's false. It costs $10,000 a year to send a student to Mooresville schools. These houses will not pay near that in property tax. So it's a no-win situation there. As we speak right now, there are plenty entry-level homes available in this area. Enclave out on County Line Road, Hadley's Crossing on Landersdale Road in Western, North Madison Crossing. There's plenty entry-level homes available in this area for sale. As far as the Hardy Plank, you had the table there that showed that from 4,000 more to 6,000 more to build that house. And you're saying that if they had to do that, then their payment would be too high. What you're telling me right now is they're getting into that house, barely getting into that house now, and if one of the people lose their job, they're going to lose the house. Mr. Dieter, then, do you have anything you want to add?
I think that you've expressed, we've looked at this quite a bit. There's been a lot of history on this piece of property. It is currently zoned to be residential. I think you even said that the plat that you're proposing essentially is what was proposed back in 2006 in terms of the layout. I know there was a lot of negotiation and discussion in 2006 because of that high density that is planned for this, that the type of home was going to be of a higher quality, even then under our old zoning ordinance. And it can be built today with residential if we're supplied with a plat that would meet, all the requirements that we could approve it. I don't think it's necessary to rezone it. It is approved residential. There may be some of the covenants and restrictions on the current zoning, but that's not what we're proposed with. We're proposed with a completely changed zoning request with more covenants and restrictions on it that would then have to go back with an ordinance if it was a different size of mound or a different size of chain link fence or green instead of black chain link or something like that. I'm reluctant to put more covenants and restrictions on a current zone which we're already facing some of those restrictions today and some of the struggles there. I would prefer to see a presentation of a plat that we could approve and if we have to make a zoning ordinance change, then we'll do that on the covenants and restrictions. But a PUDR gives us that opportunity to do that. So I would encourage you to do that because I think it would be appropriate to go ahead and do a residential development there. I'm not sure if the current layout that's there is satisfactory. It may be higher density than what is needed. We talked about traffic studies and other things because obviously a lot of things have changed since 2006. But I guess I don't see a need to rezone it.
Other comments, questions from the Planning Commission?
Wasn't the density of the PUD negotiated back then, isn't that actually a higher density than what would normally be allowed?
Yes, because of the percentage of brick that they were going to put on those homes. It's going to be 80% or more brick, and that's why the density was, and I was on the Planning Commission then.
So now the same density is being proposed with the vinyl homes.
Yes. I mean, we're here tonight, it had been since last November, tried to work with the commission on under the existing PUDR that was a non-starter. So here tonight, we've now 14 years later, 15, 16 years later, times have changed, demographics have changed, the community has changed, but yet the Planning Commission wants to hold my client to a standard that was in place in 2006, and that is a non-starter. I'll be blunt about it. Tonight, we want to vote up, down, or no recommendation. We feel that this development is needed by the community, and we believe that the community would support this development. We believe that this development is substantially higher than some of the developments that have taken place in recent years. We believe that this community would be an asset to Mooresville, not only bringing jobs, but also economic benefit. It would bring students to our schools, and while it's true that the property taxes from one residential home doesn't support a student, you've got to remember, if there are students brought to the community, the state then pitches in the majority of the cost of educating those students. It's not supported by property taxes alone. So we made our presentation. We've been here 3 times. It is not going to change. If in all good conscience you can't support this, we would request no recommendation and let the town council do their job.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If it goes, regardless if it's rezoned or not rezoned, would you need to come back to us for a plat approval?
For plat approval, yes, but you've got to remember, and I'm not preaching to the choir necessarily, but under the UDO, for the plat, once it's zoned, in this case R1C, with our commitments, obviously, those are the standards to which that plat would be held. So, yes, you would see it. Yes, under the UDO, you can require us to do a lot of things, traffic studies, drainage studies, all of those things. But at the end of the day, if we meet the requirements for the zoning district in which the land has been approved, and we meet the check boxes under the UDO and your request for those things such as setbacks and whatever, then I think this commission would be hard pressed to deny it.
Well, I'm not saying that we would deny it, but we might require restrictions on it, enhancements, things like that, that could very closely mirror what is currently in the current zoning, such as brick, crawl spaces, a different configuration, more open space as a part of the plat approval. If we were to do that, what would that be acceptable to?
I'm not going to argue the legalities of that tonight, but I believe under a straight out zoning category that you might be limited on what you can do. But I'm not going to argue that tonight. Tonight we're here, a zoning change, R1C, with the commitments, knowing we certainly would be back to you, assuming that the zoning is approved, for plat approval. And you could impose certain conditions and restrictions on that. Whether it would get to the point of requiring open space or some things like that that are not in your UDO, I think would be difficult, but I'm not here tonight to talk about that. Here tonight, get a vote, up, down, or no recommendation for this change to R1C with the commitments that we brought before you.
I think you have to understand that the new UDO specifically states that the Planning Commission can attach more specifications than the matrix that you had.
And I understand that.
Okay? And that could go and affect many of the covenants and things that we want.
I'm not going to argue that tonight. We are not backing up. We are not retreating.
Okay, we're not backing up.
No, I understand, and this is not an argument. I'm just telling you, we've been here 3 or 4 times now. We deserve a vote, whatever that would be, and we will take it to the council and let the council determine. And then whatever issues there might be when it comes to the planning, we would address those at that time.
Other comments or questions from the Planning Commission?
No question. The houses shown, are they the model homes that will be built there?
Not necessarily. Those are just examples to give the planning commission, and also as far as the ordinance goes, a feel, a flavor of what the homes would look like versus, for instance, every one of those you can see has an eave on it. They have a relatively steep pitched roof. They have aesthetics. They have some things that break up the front versus if you go to a lot of developments where you just got a vinyl front and that's it. So those are not necessarily model homes. They are there to give the commission and whoever would be enforcing this ordinance later on the ability to say, if it talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, and that is the duck that we got.
Well, I want to make sure we're seeing a picture of the duck.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not going to get a turkey.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, if you walked out to the development with these pictures in hand, and you saw a house that, number one, had a 4-pitched roof, didn't have any eaves on it, didn't have anything to break up the front, didn't have an assortment of materials on it, you would say, well, that's not that. And you would be right to deny a building permit for it. That's what that's for. Because it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to put into words what the aesthetics are, what it's going to look like. I mean, we can talk here all day long, and I can tell you that I'm going to have 8 12-pitch roofs, I'm going to have 18-inch overhangs, I'm going to have full brick, and it will be the ugliest house you have ever seen. And so it doesn't, just because it's brick or masonry or it's got hardy plank on it, it's got all those things that were under the previous or under the current zoning, quite frankly, doesn't mean it's something that you would want to live next door to. That's why the pictures are essential.
I have a question just based on that, perhaps to provide a little legal guidance on it. Generally, what you do see, if you see something like this, is you have the developer say he will develop something in substantial compliance to that.
That is correct.
Would that be part of a written commitment?
Yes.
Because commitments can be verbal. Would you include that they would be substantially compliant to that?
Yes.
And as far as the size, pitch,
What,
So
no,
that's the question that's in here.
yeah, that's,
finishes aside, the general model I'm looking at here, discounting the brick and the other aesthetics, the size and the pitch and the trim would be atypical of what would be built there.
the standards themselves is what we put in here. Minimum house size, 1,500 square feet. Minimum overhang eave, not including the gutters, 12-inch. Minimum roof pitch, 612. I have no idea whether that's 612 or not. They look steeper, some of them. Looks like some of the dormers are maybe flatter than 612. But given the written commitments for the construction, and they would be in substantial compliance with what they would look like.
And I take it that you had nothing that would be representative of what you're proposing to build there to show us.
No, because quite frankly, they're all going to be different. And I could bring something in and show you, and it could even be a model that they propose to build, and a month later they build one down the road, a little bit different. Maybe it doesn't have the same breakup, maybe it doesn't have the same mix of materials, but it's got different materials. And you say, well, that's not what you showed us. So that's the difficulty we have here.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, I'm just perplexed. If you're asking for an up and down vote, and you're bringing us these pictures and telling us, well, that's not exactly what it's gonna look like, why don't you bring us pictures of, why don't you have this more complete?
Because I would have to bring you maybe 1,000 pictures.
No, I wouldn't need 1,000, but you've got 4.
Well,
Can you bring me 4?
If you remember back in November, we had, I don't know, there was 12, 15 different pictures of the different kinds of houses. And those are they're still valid homes. We could do that. I'm just telling you, this is representative of what we would be building. So how many pictures is enough? Is it, you say it's not, four not enough, but is it 10 down on the end?
No, I
of the
didn't
table?
say 4 wasn't enough. I just would like it to be more representative of what we're getting. I mean, it's not a duck.
Well, what you've got is what we presented and what we want to vote on.
The
But it's
only,
not clear.
the only house that you have up there that displays a 612 pitch is the upper right-hand house. That's one that,
That's correct. And
all
there-
the others are, I think, even steeper than 812.
and see,
Main part of the 612 with dormers that are steeper.
the point you're missing is that there could be a lot of the homes, maybe the majority of the homes will have 6, 12, 8, 12, 12, 12 pitch roughs, not 12, 12, but 8, 12, pretty common. And they could have all kinds of things. These are the minimum requirements. To say that, so we say 8, 12 is the minimum, and somebody says, well, the dormer right there, for instance, broke up the front, is 612. Well, does that meet the requirements? Probably not. So what we've asked for tonight is what we presented, and the Plan Commission, as is your duty, you vote your conscience, and we will roll with it.
Just one final comment, following up on what I said earlier. In 2006, you presented to this commission, for your client at the time, a well-negotiated zoning request with a lot of restrictions and covenants attached to it. And you could never have predicted in 2006 what was going to happen in 2007, 2008, and the changes that occurred then.
Right.
So here, 15 years later, we're back here to look at this once again with another request for a rezoning with more covenants and restrictions attached to it. And nobody knows what's going to happen in 22 or 23 and what kind of, especially coming out of a pandemic issue that we're in now, what the economy is going to look like then. It's very likely that 15 years from now, you'll be back to us again with another rezoning, with another set of restrictions and covenants, with a new UDO that we have. I don't see the benefit of attaching all these covenants and restrictions onto the zoning ordinance as you have done tonight, because it's very likely that you may not be able to do all the things that you want to do, which is what you're telling us tonight here 15 years later. I'm confused as to why you would do that and make that change just as you did in 2006, when you admit that you can build homes today if you present us a plat that we could approve.
Because the economics of, for instance, 18-inch eaves, 8, 12 pitch roofs, the larger homes, a 1,600 square foot, 1,800 square foot homes, all those things, hardy plank, brick, whatever, impact cost.
Sure.
And the cost and price points today are much more competitive than they were at that time. It was booming then, I mean, booming. You could borrow 125% of the value of the house with nothing down. Of course, we know what that got us.
Right.
Got us a disaster. We know, or my client does, I don't. My client knows that, number one, they can build these homes, they can build good homes, they can build them at the price point they've said, and they predict this will be built out, all sold out in 5 years or less. 5 years. That is not, if in fact, the current conditions under which the land is zoned, somebody would have done it by now. I mean, they would have. It's been 16, 17 years. Somebody should say, well, I can do that. Even the first phase started and said, well, it didn't work. Nobody's even tried it. I mean, so here we are. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is an extremely difficult thing for the commission. It is an extremely difficult thing for me, having to stand here and present this to you. But it is what my client thinks is in his best interest, because they are local, they live here and they have their entire lives. They think it's in the best interest of the community and for the betterment of the entire community. Greater Mooresville School Districts, the whole thing. including economic development, jobs, things like that. I've had several conversations with Mike Dillinger. He says, you know, one of the criteria for somebody moving into Mooresville bring jobs, regardless of what those jobs are, manufacturing particularly though, is that where are my workers coming from and where will they live once they're here? They don't want them driving 40 miles or 50 miles to work, because snows happen, rains happen, construction happens, accidents happen. They want their workers to live as close to their jobs as they possibly can. And housing is one of the bigger elements of whether somebody moves to the community or, to be blunt about it, stays in the community. Where will my workers live? And I know last meeting you had realtors testify and present issues that there is no housing available. There is no housing. You have not in Mooresville, you got to go out of the county. Got to go across the county line to Avon or Greenwood or someplace like that for the vast majority of homes. And just because you're pre-approved for a loan that you can get into one of these homes doesn't mean, like all of us, we can lose our jobs and lose our homes. Many of us are one paycheck away from doing that. So just because you've got scratched together your last penny to get you in this home doesn't mean that you don't deserve the home. So we would ask tonight, and I know we have remonstrators here, or people that want to speak, that we have a vote. We would prefer a favorable recommendation, we certainly would. That's why we're here. But barring that, we would accept a no recommendation would be a way for the planning commission to, perhaps you have mixed emotions about this, to give it on to the council. Barring that, I would hope this isn't the case, but if it's an unfavorable recommendation, so be it.
Before I ask for the public to speak, I want to make one comment. You're saying there's no houses available around here to buy. I earlier mentioned that there's houses at Hadley's Crossing, at North Madison Crossing, and in the Enclave. There's houses around here that are available. What we're wanting to do is get the next level of house so that the people that want to move out of the entry-level home can stay here and go to the median-level home.
My only comment to that, and I made it before, is this is not the property for that to happen. It is not. It's next to Carrington to the north, Grandview to the west, both nice neighborhoods in their own right. They are not the next level area to build this.
If we do not drive a stake in the sand and say we are going to build some median-level homes, we will continue to have entry-level homes at this planning commission.
I would like you to drive your stake several miles down the road in a nice wooded area. So, with that,
The trend is these type of homes. We need to go to the next level.
this project is not your next level. It is, we believe, the next level above Grandview, certainly several levels above Carrington. It's not Roberson Woods. It's just not. Roberson Woods has trees. It's beautiful and it's shade. This is a big open field, relatively flat. It's not the next level. I'm going to sit down. And let,
Thank you, Mr. Callaway.
thank you.
If the public would wish to speak, I have a sign-up sheet. If you sign up, please come to the mic, state your name and address, and Mr. Taylor's going to time. So I'm not going to call off the list. Come up as you wish.
I have a question.
Come up to the mic, please, so we can hear you.
Were we supposed to
Come
also,
up, you got to come to the mic,
were we
please.
supposed to talk about the proposed Fountain Drive in connection with this, that would go through the Grandview neighborhood and into this new neighborhood?
I think,
Our neighborhood was told that was to be discussed this evening.
I guess Mr. Holloway could address that. Do you want to do that
What was
now or
the
later?
question?
the connecting
Using Fountain Drive as a
T
second
that-
entrance
that
to this
goes from-
neighborhood?
There will be a connection through Grandview to the road that stubs off now, and that was the intent when that was platted.
and that's there now.
And it is correct, it is there now.
And can I talk about that tonight? To dispute that or to argue against it?
I don't know that you can stop that because it was already in the plan for Grandview. And we like to have two entrances and exits to a subdivision, safety reasons.
Okay. Yes, our neighborhood association said that we're free to argue that point.
You're welcome to.
Yes.
But that's been in existence
Yes.
for at least 15 years. That was going to happen.
Yes, I know that, it's,
And they're
it's
not wanting to change it.
a dead end. Okay, and there is no way to change that?
I
That
guess,
you could ask the developer.
I guess you could take them to court. But for safety reasons, I think this planning commission would require that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Excuse me, may I please ask your name? Are you Miss Dawn Mitchell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Who else wishes to make a comment?
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeffrey Turley, 4833 Hadley Road. I'll make this real brief because I talked a long time at the last meeting. I just want to express a few concerns. According to the Realtor.com, 2020 had the record lowest inventory of homes for sale with a almost 40% decline across the nation. That's for all type homes, all pricing of homes, not just the lower end, but the higher end as well. Our local market confirms this statistic with few homes listed for sale. Obviously, there's a need in Mooresville for quality built homes. And we approved the petitioner's additional voluntary zoning commitments pertaining to neighboring properties, buffering restrictions, and discussion on other structures, restrictions on the properties. And we are generally in support of the petitioner developing the project. We're pleased that the developer, the petitioner, is a local person. And the builder, I believe, for the developer is also local. We appreciate that. There's concerns, however, that's already been expressed here tonight, it seems. One is the issue of the covenant restrictions. We hope that they will comply with that of 2006 PUD regarding all those covenants and restrictions. The density appears to be still a concern of ours with the request under the R1C. And we believe that more appropriate density would be under the R1A, actually, if there's a zoning change. We're concerned regarding also the size of homes with this request for the zoning down to the 1,200 square feet, but a commitment even of the 1,500 square feet. There's a trend still in the U.S. for homes going larger, and I've got some documents I'll pass out for you concerning that issue. Finally, of course, we have concern regarding the exterior finishes. We're concerned of having homes with vinyl siding only on a house with no other architectural improvements or compliances with such things as masonry. With that, I'll pass out what I have, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you. You're welcome, Beth. someone else like to speak?
I would. Plan Commissioners, my name is Mike Dellinger, and I'm with the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. And since Mr. Holloway brought me up this evening, I thought maybe I'd make some comments. We're in favor of this rezone, and we've spoken about this project at length. Morgan County Economic Development Corporation has spoken at length about this project and other housing projects that come before us. And without being contradictory to you this evening, we see things differently than you do, because we're behind the scenes with those industries and with commerce every day, and listening to our school corporation and how it's funded. And we're looking at our median age of the county as it continues to get older. We know that younger people can't afford $500,000 brick homes. There might have been a market for the brick homes back in '06, but apparently there wasn't, because it was never developed. We don't see that here today. We don't see that in the more affluent communities on the northern and eastern sides of the greater Indianapolis region. You don't see 196 all-brick home subdivision. It just doesn't happen. We're asking you to help the town of Mooresville. The subdivisions that have been mentioned this evening aren't part of the town of Mooresville directly. They don't pay the property taxes into the town when they're extraterritorial in the 2-mile buffer. The town needs that tax revenue. The county needs the income tax revenue. We're not growing. If you look at the data, Morgan County is not growing. We need growth opportunities here to sustain what we have, let alone try and grow the economy. I don't know how we can turn down somebody who's local. This is lifeblood, and he wants to bring something good to our community that will sell and will bring new young families to Morgan County and Mooresville. So let's step back from what we're seeing from our own individual self-interest and look at it for what's really the best for the town and the area that we serve. And hopefully you'll give a favorable recommendation to the town council, because that's certainly what we're doing behind the scenes. And we want to be on the same team with you that we all are, looking at things from the same perspective. So we hope that you'll consider this rezone tonight and give it a favorable recommendation so the town council members can follow that lead. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and certainly thank you for your time.
I am respectfully going to agree to disagree with you 100%. You're talking about people can't afford a $500,000 brick home. We're not talking about a $500,000 brick home.
In today's market, the standards, my understanding of what was platted in '06, the PUD, is requiring a brick. Let's not forget, over the last year, when no homes were selling because of the pandemic, the price of lumber on a 2,000 square foot home run up on average around the country by $16,000 for a home. We're pricing ourselves out of the market again, folks. We've also found that people don't have to go to work at the Salesforce Tower anymore. They're looking for suburban residential opportunities. Young people, young professionals with tech degrees, the kinds of things that we want to attract to our communities. We don't have the capacity for them. This is a great opportunity to create capacity that we don't have. Other capacity will follow as the market sees it to be the interest. We shouldn't be trying to stymie the market. We should look at this guy and say, build these houses for these families who want to come into Mooresville. I mean, it's just simply put. Now, I understand everybody's concerned about it, but let's look at the flip side. I'm going to use this example. We saw the sewer bills go up in the town with the NICEPAC announcement. Did you see the numbers that would have happened on the bills had NICEPAC decided to leave? It would have been an astronomical loss to us. Why do we keep compounding these potential astronomical losses when we could be bringing new people into our community? That's all Sean wants to do for us. That's all the industry and commerce is asking. New opportunities to sell products and services and provide jobs to new people. We're not talking about bowling anybody over with growth and change. This county's population is growing at 1% a year. That's about 700 people. That's not really growth sustenance. Look at what goes on with our school corporation. 2 years ago, Mooresville imported 600 students. At about, I think in the 2019 years, probably about 4,500 students or dollars per head that the state funded. That's where they make up the difference. We're not gonna make it up in property taxes. We're gonna make it up in income taxes that pay for government services. And we're gonna make it up on heads in the school classrooms because these families, younger families, are bringing kids into our school corporation. That's what they need. And they also still have room in their levy that they can maximize for their own taxes for growth. So we're short selling ourselves. And one of our own wants to bring us something that we can use. We should encourage it, not restrict it. That's just how we've seen it behind the scenes, because we know we need this housing in Mooresville and Morgan County. We need all price points. So I understand you respectfully disagreeing with me. I appreciate that.
That's the same thing they told the people in Avon about 10, 15 years ago.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. Those are the homes your kids are living in up in Avon right now, or in Greenwood, or your grandkids. They're not living in them here in Morgan County because they're not coming home to live. We're not giving them this opportunity.
I don't think that you're doing Mooresville a favor by wanting to continue the trend.
There is no trend, Mr. Young.
There is a trend. We have
Mooresville has grown by 35 people on average since the last decennial census. That's not a trend of growth.
We have approved the 3 subdivisions I mentioned for entry-level homes.
In Morgan County, not in the town of Mooresville.
There's not that many people going to be coming to the town of Mooresville.
Because you're not creating any space for them to.
The town of Mooresville is saturated and there are no more town limits.
See, now you're not looking out for the benefit of the town of Mooresville by taking that perspective. So I'm going to stop right here because I really disagree with you on this.
I really disagree with you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Mathers, Knightsville Road, Mooresville. My husband, Jim Mathers, and myself are the sole south border property owners adjacent to this Jessup farm field where our classified forest hardwood tree farm is located. And I'm coming from a different perspective than some of your other speakers. And I'm basing some of my information on the last meeting that I attended. And I have questions on some of the information that was given at that March 11 meeting. The petitioner, as I recall, stated that there is no market for brick, fiber cement, or hardy plank exteriors in Mooresville. According to him, vinyl is the only exterior that sells in Mooresville. And I found that astounding. He even used statistics and slides from Sunco that he based this information on. Here again, I have a question. I was told a Sunco owner was the developer petitioner, so wouldn't that or couldn't that cause the statistics to be biased? The picture given last meeting is of a whole subdivision of vinyl exterior homes. Mooresville and adjacent areas are loaded with this type of home, and I would venture there are thousands already. We, the homeowners and property owners who live around this Jessup farm field, want upgraded exteriors such as brick, fiber cement, and hardy plank. It is time Mooresville demands to have a diversity of upgraded housing as all communities that surround us have. If you never request updates on the housing requirements, it will remain the same, and that is the starter home mentality. We as a Mooresville community have spent millions of our tax dollars improving the gateways to town and rely on all the positive options in Mooresville that interest house hunters. So we say, build it better, they will come.
Thank you. Couldn't have said it better myself.
inappropriate.
That's my point.
I think that's inappropriate.
It is,
Okay,
it is.
okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, please,
I'll stop.
those are comments.
Hi, I'm Ashley Wright. I haven't signed in. Do I need to sign?
No, I know you.
Okay. I'm at 8510 Merrily Road, and I
What's
actually
your
had
name?
some, Ashley Wright, and I had some questions for you. You mentioned some subdivisions that have availability currently. Is Hadley's Corner in the town of Mooresville? No. No?
It's 1/4 mile away.
But would it be in front of this board to be proposed?
Yes,
Okay, so it's not in the town of Mooresville.
but they go to Mooresville schools and
Correct.
it comes to this board, so that's housing that's
Sure.
available in this immediate area.
Sure. And I've personally sold homes in that neighborhood, and I know personally that there's not one single lot left. There's not one single home for sale in there. So I just want to have that on record. North Madison Crossing, how many homes are available to purchase right now in there?
There's an entire subdivision, the infrastructure's going in right now.
So there are currently 0 homes for sale right now in there?
I don't know how soon they're going to start building, but the infrastructure's there now.
But there are currently 0?
Pardon?
There are currently 0 for homes for sale in North Madison Crossing?
And the Enclave has many homes for sale,
Okay, so the Enclave, which is also not in the town of Mooresville,
but it's
it's in
Mooresville
Canby.
schools.
Mooresville Schools, right. How many homes are for sale in the Enclave?
They're building many homes every day.
Right, I think you mentioned earlier, there are many entry-level homes for sale right now.
Yes,
Where are they?
if you want to go purchase one, they'll build it for you.
But they're not for sale right now.
I don't understand your play on words.
How many homes are for sale in the Mooresville area right now?
Total Mooresville School District, there are 8.
If I look at Realtor.com in Mooresville, Indiana, at this moment, there are more than 60 homes listed for sale in Mooresville, Indiana.
Mooresville School District, there are 8 single-family homes for sale. I literally just looked.
I'm just telling you that if you go to the Realtor.com, I would encourage you to do so and look at the homes that are for sale. There was a home for sale right down the street
That
from
are,
here.
okay, I'm sorry.
That just sold.
Available to be purchased.
It just sold last week.
So
I
it's
don't
no
know-
longer for sale.
I don't know where you're not selling homes, but there are homes for sale.
Okay. There are 8 homes available to be purchased currently in the Mooresville School District.
Well, I'm telling you, if you go to the website, I could go buy a home tonight if I really wanted to. There are more than 60 listed. There were more than 60 listed the last time you came and talked to us and told us there were 2 homes for sale. I'm saying,
I'm sorry.
I don't think your
That
statistics
are
are
not already under
correct.
contract. There are 8 already not under contract.
I'm telling you, I would encourage you to check your statistics because I don't think they're accurate.
Okay. I brought documentation last time, actually.
Well, I'm just telling you what I see and what I see from
Okay.
other realtors. So
Could you sell a median level home now?
So that was my next question. So why do you believe, as a board, that no higher
As legal
level?
counsel, I'm gonna stop this. This is not this is not
Oh, no.
a conversation that you don't need to interview or interrogate the board
Okay.
members. You can do that outside of, but that's not what this platform is.
Okay, so maybe it
You're
can
more
be
than-
non-answered, just a question out loud.
Can I finish?
Sure.
And then I will give you the same respect, I promise. If you have things that you want to comment on with respect to this particular petition, please feel free, they'll allot you the 5 minutes that they're affording
Sure.
everybody else. But this is not a panel for them just to sit and answer questions, and I can't allow them to necessarily do that.
I think I was only continuing because they were answering.
And I'm now instructing
Yeah.
them to not engage.
Oh, I thought you were instructing me.
No, I'm just looking at you. I'm instructing them not to engage anymore.
Sure.
If you have comments that you'd like to make with respect to the petition, you are completely entitled to do that.
Okay, so I guess my last comment would be just, since this was approved as a PUD in 2006, why do we think that no other builder has came to propose something higher level? Like, that's the only question that I keep thinking, like, why is it that no other builder has stuck their neck out, or their investment, or got with Holloway and said, hey, what do we need to do to build higher level homes for Mooresville? And myself as an agent in the area, honestly was questioning that too. I mean, we all want a higher level, of course. I want to make more money, don't we all, right? But why is it that this specific property has only attracted for this currently approved PUD, this level of home?
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Any comments from members of the planning commission?
Donna, did you want to talk? You stood up, I'm sorry.
Yes, real quick, if you don't mind.
I didn't see, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I kind of did it at the last minute. Sean Stewart, 8412 Hickory Hill Trail, Mooresville. I feel like it would be unjust if I didn't at least go up here and address a few things. I spent $32 years in my life in Mooresville. 32 years. I live here, I work here. Everything I do is here. It pains me to see this right now. I would never do anything to the town that would ever.
They can't hear you.
Sorry.
Can't hear what you're saying.
I would never do anything to the town to jeopardize what I like about it, what I love about it. If I could build those houses that you wanted on that lot, I would do that in a second. I would do that in a second. It's more fun for me, it's more fun for everybody to see that. I can't do it. I can build 20 of them in itself. 20 a year. I can't do that. I can't do that. The town can't support that. I would do whatever it takes to see this town grow. I had a big long list of things I wanted to talk about tonight. Most of it has been addressed, but I just wanted to come up and say I would never do anything to hamper this town. The town I grew up in, the town I live in. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess to summarize and recap here, we're here tonight to request a favorable recommendation for R1C zoning with the commitments that we put forth tonight. The heyday for this property to be what some members of this planning commission want it to be and prefer to be are long past. It is not going to happen. Not by Mr. Stewart, not by anybody in this area, given the location of the property, and it's basically a big open field. Your own economic development director says this property it should be developed residentially and specifically in favor of this project. And he's had available everything else that this planning commission has had available. These are not starter homes. They are not $150,000, $175,000 homes. They are very nice homes for medium income families, and they will be an asset to the town of Mooresville. Some members of this commission have their opinion as to what this property should be, but I would encourage each member to vote their conscience. But as I said in opening remarks, we want and deserve a vote. My last comment will be back a year ago, just about this time. I passed out to this planning commission when we had before you a mobile home expansion. And it was a document by the Indiana Planning Association that said the Plan Commission's responsibility as any community is to look after the overall benefit and good of the community at large, not the adjoiners, not even necessarily the developer, but the entire community at large. The schools need this development, the builders need this development, employers need this development, and everyone in the community for miles around the grid would benefit from this development. And I dare say another development coming up tonight is before you. So when you vote, and I would hope we get a favorable recommendation to the town council, that you keep in mind it's for the better good of the community, not necessarily what your own preferences might be, not necessarily what you think it should have been 16 years ago, but what it can be today. Thank you.
I think there's several factors that might be looked at for this property not to being purchased by somebody to build. Maybe the price was too high and they just came down so that someone thought they could build there. Because of the pandemic, the fires in California, lumber prices have escalated. There's speculation that those lumber prices are going to decline and maybe become more affordable. I still have issues saying that this development will help the schools of Mooresville. Anyone else from the Planning Commission wants to speak?
I just have a question on, you're saying multiple homes.
I don't think they can hear Josh.
You're saying multiple homes. How many floor plans do you have in mind? Like,
5 different floor plans, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be any number or variety of exteriors and things like that.
second of all, the housing addition, Sean, that you built in Plainfield, how is that compared to these homes? I mean, those homes are really all brick, really nice homes. How do you compare those that you're building compared to these?
They start at 400,000.
We can't hear you.
You need to come up, I'm sorry.
Those homes in Plainfield start at 400,000. You go up to 800,000.
Because I knew you built a bunch of homes
It
over there.
took 3 years to build and sell 20 of them.
You're going to have to come up to the mic if you want to continue so everybody can hear.
For the record, though. He has to be heard.
If there are no further questions from the Planning Commission or comments, are there?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You said you have 5 basic models you're looking at right now, floor plans, is that correct? And are any one of these 4 one of those 5?
No.
Thank you.
I'm ready for a motion.
I
Wait,
do,
sorry.
no, I do have a clarification though, because I thought Mr. Holloway said that you were gonna put in commitments that this was gonna substantially comply with these photos.
For the
Exterior?
exterior.
And so for the interiors, they're different.
For the exterior, so the outside appearance, discounting the finish, will look like this.
Similar. Substantially.
Same
Right.
size, same accoutrements,
Yeah.
other than the finishes.
Yeah. And it might be different materials and, you know.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure, because you understand that if you change that commitment, because this goes to council regardless.
Right.
If you change that commitment, not here, but before council, council has to kick that back to the plan commission.
I understand.
So I would encourage you to verbally say now that you're changing that, so it's before this plan commission.
Question on that, if I may. What if the council wants to throw that out of its own, does it then have to bring it back to the planning commission as well?
Yes, if council makes any sort of amendment, it has to come back to plan commission.
Our commitment is the exterior, materials, look, feel, will be like this. Substantial compliance.
There's only one house up there that's similar. The one on the far upper right that has this, probably a 612. All the other pitches are substantially greater than the cutoff.
No, I'm sorry, but that's not true.
It is not.
There are multiple 612 or less pitches on several of these homes, including the garage here.
And dormers?
The garage and dormers, this garage. This
Okay,
garage.
okay, I'm sorry, the garage, but not the,
But if it's a
No.
minimum 612 pitch, it applies to every pitch roof on the, and that's why we have that minimum, so that that house can be built.
on those gables, on all the gables there, with the exception of the one over here, there are substantially more than six.
And there might be several that will be 812. There could be 1212.
There
There
might
could be
be-
anything, but it won't be less than
that-
612.
And that's why I'm getting them to commit that it's substantially compliant. We can
That's
argue
correct.
all day.
It will
There's
be
no other way to bind
substantially-
the developer other than to make him say he's substantially complying with those.
That is correct.
And that is universal.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's all up.
We're not changing.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that, based upon the fact that the current zoning for this is a PUDR, I do not see the need to do a rezone, so I'm going to make a motion of an unfavorable recommendation to the town council on this petition.
I second.
We have a motion, and we have a second.
Second.
We have a second, we have a second. All those in favor?
How many do we have?
Motion, everybody but one. We have a majority.
I'm sorry, you voted
Not
nay.
voted no.
Thank you.
Mr. Allenbaugh voted no. So this will go to the town council, not the next town council meeting, but the one after that.
And that, what,
The first Tuesday in May.
first
Right.
Tuesday in May?
Thank you. If there were members of the public that were here for this rezone and do not want to stay for the rest of the meeting, kindly ask if you want to exit, you can. I'll take about a 3-minute break here, and then we'll move on. I didn't hear it. Okay, we will go with the next rezone.
Josh stepped outside.
Yeah.
If you need to interject to stop the discussion, by all means do so. I apologize if we were getting too much discussion and not allowing you to have an opinion.
And the reason
Sure, I understand. That's what I said. If we need to stop a discussion, by all means, let us know. Thank you. That's fine. Fair enough. As always. As always. What's next?
County Line Road, Ferguson.
You drive up here from Augusta
We should start.
today? Are you going down tonight? Huh? Are you?
I usually only do this to protect school interests.
Yeah, you do. You live on the zone across the, not down here.
You got it right. The family report is doing it. You're right. You didn't know.
I could be a little
I'm just right down one drive down from you there.
It's nice how my daughter can walk to school.
Josh back. Are we ready to begin, everyone? So, the next one is a rezone at County Line Road. It's continued from the last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ross Holloway here, Holloway Engineering, representing Hyatt Homes back here, and the Allison family. This property has been before you multiple times. In the last meeting, we had a discussion about its current zoning of I-1 and whether that was appropriate or not. And I won't belabor the point other than to say I think the consensus is in the community and certainly with the surrounding neighbors that they would rather see it to be residential. So tonight our request is a change in zoning from I-1 to R1D to provide for 73 single-family homes. A representation, and it's not a preliminary plat or a final plat, even though it says lot layout, of 73 lots. This is one configuration that could take place. Likely it would be similar in the final form. And with that, I would just answer any questions you might have. It's south of County Line Road on Ferguson, approximately 600 to 1,000 feet as the entrance road. One other item of note, we did contact the county highway engineer last time. We told you he was deployed to Iraq. I believe that is still the case. But should there have to be traffic studies or whatever studies would be required for an entrance road by the county, since the road is in their jurisdiction, we would comply obviously with that demand or requirement.
Comments, questions from the Planning Commission?
Question. Is that area currently served by water and sewer?
Yes. In fact, our sanitary sewer runs along the north line of it, well, it doesn't show up very good, right along the north line of the property. In fact, you can see on your drawing, it says 25-foot wide sanitary sewer easement. That's where the existing sanitary sewer is, and there is a very large, I seem to think it's a 20-inch water main on County Line Road that would be extended to service this property.
Less than 2 years ago, you were at this Planning Commission and you had a list of bullet statements why this property should be rezoned I. Met the comprehensive plan, the property across the road is I, the Allison transmission shop is I, and it was better to be I than anything else. And I fully believe that the impact for the neighbors there was going to be much less if this was I-1. It's going to be it's not going to be heavy manufacturing. And the type of houses you're proposing here are R1D, which is the bottom of the residential specifications, and they will be all vinyl.
I think we can address that. If you look here at some of these homes, the square footage, from 1524 up to 3600, look at the exterior conditions. You can see some brick and gingerbread and things that break it up. So to say that they're the bare minimum is not necessarily true. So, but it is R1D.
The lot size is small. You've got how many? I wasn't here last time, so.
73 lots.
On 30 acres?
Approximately, yes. 27.4.
So are you willing to give a percentage of homes that will be a lot of masonry versus and square footage, and agree to some agree to some percentages of homes that are going to have this, and not just go in there and build everything vinyl?
Let me confer with the clients and see. We would commit that 100% of the homes would have first floor would be brick. Front.
Now, would it be the clay kiln brick, or will it be the stick-on?
It won't be the stick-on brick. No, it's
standard bed depth brick.
You can see every home here, the first floor, front is all brick.
So it'd be all the way up? It'd be all the way up?
To the eave on the first floor. First floor. Some of the two-story homes obviously not.
So let me remind you, the amount of brick that would require then, most of that front of that house is occupied by the garage door, the front door, and the windows. So the amount of brick you're going to put on there is minimal.
The question was, would they commit? And they said the front first door story will be brick. That's correct. That's the commitment.
That's not much of a commitment. Other questions or comments from the commission?
2 years ago, I think, a little less than 2 years ago, I think it was, you presented to us at that time that this was, the best use of this property was to be industrial, based upon, and I think the same comments were made to the council, the surrounding area as a part of the rezone, that the surrounding area was commercial, was consistent with the comprehensive plan, that this should be in some level of industrial or commercial with all the other surrounding areas around it. What changed your mind?
Two things. Number one, it went on the market as I-1, and while there were a few inquiries, nobody was serious at all for it. And that was 2+ years ago. Two, I think the Allison situation has changed since they didn't really have anybody seriously interested in this I-1. They needed to change their perspective and their look for the land. Also, I remind you that there's a strip about, what is it, 300 or 400 feet wide along County Line Road that is still I-1. And then I think the realtors went out and talked to the neighbors, and they presented a petition last time that the neighbors were in favor of the residential versus industrial. And even though light industrial may not be the most onerous thing, it can still have some things that maybe won't wake you up at night or some things like that. So, and depending on what that I-1 use was and how the property was divided up, quite frankly, it could have been divided up into maybe some small I-1 parcels. But times have changed, the economy has changed. They put it on the market, seriously marketed. If you've been out there, you see the sign on the corner. They had a couple inquiries. I think quite frankly, with people looking for a bargain, and there wasn't any bargain, so there it is. So that's what's changed.
So, and just as a follow-up on that, I mean, I believe that we've had several petitions for changes to the Allison property, some replats to try to accommodate the growth of their business, which is I-1.
Right.
That business, I assume, is successful because it continues to grow and expand, and we've been very complimentary of that, tried to work with them to do that. Same thing what we wanted to do in terms of being consistent with this, with the I-1 that's here, and we've not seen any petitions to change from I-1 to a different classification of industrial that I'm aware of, that whether you mentioned that I-1 might not be the best classification, maybe an I-2 or something like that would be something. I'm not saying that's what we'd like to see, but I'm just surprised that we're changing completely from industrial when the comments were that that is the best use of this property forever, which is what zoning is forever, as a part of the overall comprehensive plan, that this is what is slated for this area, including the homes across the road and everything else if you look at the comprehensive plan. I'm just surprised that we're changing, that the petition is to change that strategy.
Well, zoning is forever until it's changed by the appropriate process, and so we're going through that. So going back to why, I-2, number one, is there's no I-2s there along that area. And out the Allisons, all their I-1 work fronts on County Line Road. A little bit different. I mean, you've got the visibility, you've got the traffic, you've got everything you need to make an I-1, maybe even I-2 go viable there. Whereas, you know, you're south here, this piece of property, it falls off from a County Line Road. So it's just circumstances change, times change, and quite frankly, the neighbors to the west particularly would just have fits if it was going to be an I-2. I can't imagine them being thrilled with that, whereas this, they welcome the residential. And I think the very fact that the town has several I-1 parcels around, we've got an I-2 parcel on County Line Road still available, so I think that this is an appropriate use. Times have changed. It was on the market, no serious takers, and so here we are tonight asking for your favorable recommendation to the council.
Thank you.
Why are you asking for an R1D here, but are committing to some masonry on the front? And in the previous application, an R1C, you would commit to no mason. I don't understand.
That's because my job is to represent my client to the best of my abilities, and I've got a different client.
R1D is completely out of the question. That's the lowest grade we have. If it's going to be a nice subdivision, that allows you to build very small houses and very small lots. I think that you're challenging the credibility of this planning commission by coming back here and telling us now that you're going to change, and you want to change the residential after the presentation of the past and giving all the bullet points of why it was best to go to I. I just don't understand that. The credibility of this planning commission, if we flip-flop.
I think the planning commission has to be as flexible as the community and the circumstances and the economy requires it to be. While if everything was static, nothing would ever be changed, we'd still be living in horse and buggy days. We'd never have anything but gravel roads and mud roads. Granted, 2 years is a relatively short period of time, but at the same time, things change, circumstances change, and the very fact that this is on the market and there were no serious lookers, no serious considerations for it, and the fact there is still a strip of I-1 vacant ground to the north, right bordering County Line Road. Still leaves the opportunity for the town of Mooresville to benefit from that zoning that is there.
Therefore, if you want the planning commission to be flexible, I think that you're going to have to be flexible and change from the R1D and give us something that's better. That's the lowest classification, and it's...
The petition before you is R1D. We request a vote on R1D with the commitment that 100% of the homes will have brick on the first floor, as we show.
We also got two concerns. One, there's only one entrance.
We can't hear you up here.
I got two concerns. The first one is that there's only one entrance into the subdivision. And the second one is, with 73 lots, you're looking at almost 150 cars that will be coming out of an intersection with no stop lane.
Those are valid concerns. This is a zoning request, and while those concerns are valid, during the planning phase, this is not it. And based upon the input from the county highway engineer, who has jurisdictions over the road, they very well might require all of those things. We don't know. But the first step in this journey is zoning. After that, when we come back to you with a plat, all of those things, amongst others, drainage, stormwater, all kinds of things, would have to be addressed to your satisfaction. So while there are valid concerns, and it could be, I don't know, it could be that there would have to be two entrances. You know, I don't know. But at this juncture in time, it's this zoning petition.
These houses that you have the pictures of up here, they are similar to the houses in Hadley's Crossing. Am I correct?
I would assume so, or are they not?
No, they're not.
They're not?
Why not?
Hadley's Corner is the Simplicity series. This is our Legacy series, which would be similar to North Madison Crossing.
What's the square footage of the ones on Hadley? You're going to have to come up here to the church, please, for everybody's benefit.
Todd Hyatt for the record. So these houses that are here are similar to North Madison Crossing. North Madison Crossing is our Legacy series, which has a square footage range of 1,500 square foot on a ranch, and they start at 2,000 square feet on a two-story and go up to 3,600 square feet. Hadley's Corner, on the other hand, went from 1,284 square feet to 2,780 square feet.
Then why are you asking for an R1D?
The main reason is just based off the lots and the configuration and the need for a similar product and a similar lot size to what was done at North Madison Crossing.
So the dimension between houses is what, 12 feet? Or is it 10?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Do you know what the...
North Madison Crossing is 10,000 square feet.
No, these houses here that you're going to propose.
What about? What was the question?
What's the distance between houses minimum?
Per the ordinance, it would be 12 feet. But that depends on the configuration of the house. Of course, the houses could be narrower and increase, but North Madison Crossing has 10,000 square foot lots. Hadley's Corner, I think, is 10,000 square foot lots.
The new infrastructure going in at North Madison's Crossing, you're building that, right?
Yes, sir.
And those houses will have brick on the front?
Yes, sir.
And the lots are about the same size as these?
They are the same size. Yep.
Very
we're really asking for exactly the same thing as what's at the new section of North Madison Crossing.
Now, I know the present homeowners there that built the houses all brick are not satisfied with what's going in now.
I can't speak for them.
Here, you're number one, you're not North Madison Crossing, but if you drive out there and look across the street at the existing homes, this is about 10 steps up from that. So it certainly would be an addition to the neighborhood, I think, in anybody's book.
I think that I talked to planning commission members here, and we went out and looked at Hadley's corner after they built the two-story houses on that street that's connecting Hadley Road with Landersdale. And everyone that I talked to said, I don't know how we approved that. The houses are in the parking on the street.
This is not that.
Well,
The history of that goes back to the 1990s, in fact.
with Collin Acres, I understand that. So there's another one, we're told we can't do anything different because it was already there. So we get into that trend, well, that's all we can accept. We can't go any better. No, the houses on, what's that street that connects Hadley Road with Landersdale? Hadley's Court?
Hadley Road with
Hadley Corner. I think several members of this planning commission have been there, and it's not what I would want.
This is not what we're proposing.
I have a question.
You have a question?
When you say the developer would not consider an R1C classification.
That's correct. The problem, not problem, it's just reality. The reality is that the cost of infrastructure nowadays, you heard Mr. Dillinger comment that lumber packages went up 16%, some things like that. The cost of development is such, not even considering raw land costs, that you have to have the density to make anything work. I mean, it's basically, and this property will have to have a lift station, even though it has sanitary sewers along the north side. That can be $250,000 with the roads and everything else, talking about possibility of, signals and all kinds of things like that. The density is required to make any kind of development like this work. It's fortunate, going back to the other project, that you have a developer that can absorb some of that cost. In this case, because of the lift station and some things like that, that is not a viable option. So all of a sudden, if you go to 12,000 square foot lots, for instance, you cut down 15 to 20% of the number of lots, which means that your infrastructure cost per lot prices it out of this market.
So you're not flexible to go to R1C or R1B?
No.
Can I make a comment? You're saying, like, the price of lumber and all that has gone up. We understand that. So why could you not represent this later? Because you know it's going to go back down, and then up it from an R1D to something bigger lot,
That's a valid question, but the answer, like everything in life, it's the here and the now. I mean, we're dealing with today, we're not dealing with next week or next month. The Allisons have this property on the market. The Allisons want to sell the property. Pyatt Homes wants to buy the property. Granted, if you had unlimited time and maybe you lived forever, you could pick and choose your moment. Everybody wants to be in the stock market where you buy low and sell high, and nobody ever does it. Same thing. I mean, good idea, but it just isn't practical. It just doesn't work that way.
Can I speak on that?
Sure, absolutely.
Another thing is, just talking about in general the lumber, I know the comment was earlier that lumber's been up $16,000 per house. That was a few months ago. That number is $24,000 a house right now. It's continuing to go up, and you're right, it is commodity. It will come down, I hope, but there's a lot of other things that aren't coming down. Every single material cost is going up. The cost of fuel obviously is going up, and despite fuel going up and down throughout the years and different administrations, that doesn't ever come down. The cost of the items that are in that, so asphalt shingles, PVC piping, all of those type of things. So costs continue to rise, and they rise to the point now where at Hadley's Quarter, for example, there was a house there that was almost $300,000. The houses that we're talking about here will be an average of $300,000 or higher. And it's strictly because of all those other costs, not including that spike in lumber. That's not even a part of that.
So you're saying these houses will be a $300,000 house?
I am saying that that average sales price will be a $300,000 house. Absolutely.
agree.
That's what North Madison Crossing is right now. It's an average sales price.
What industries in Mooresville pay people enough to buy a $300,000 home?
I think that question, number one, can be answered in that apparently there are enough because they sell the houses as fast as they can build them. You've got to remember that in this day and age, most families, there are families that buy homes are two-income families, so that's the answer to your question. And there, I would hope someday to see industries come to Mooresville that pay enough so a single wage earner can afford a $300,000 home. And maybe there are here today, but I can tell you this, without having places for them to live, the industries and the people that do the hiring and pay the wages won't be coming to Mooresville for people who have to drive from who knows where to work. So, and quite frankly, I don't want to be blunt or crass about it. It's probably none of the business of this plan commission whether or not somebody can sell a house for $300,000. It's their business, and obviously they're doing well because they're selling a lot of houses. So,
No, I kind of thought it was my business, what's built in Mooresville. And I do look at the Mooresville Comprehensive Plan. I live in Mooresville. I've lived here quite a while. My kids go to school. I've got a son in high school and another son in middle school. I love Mooresville. And I worry about the character and the look of Mooresville and vinyl. And it seems like every single meeting we're having builders, and it's vinyl, vinyl, vinyl. And it's not lost on me that we need to have growth, we need to have industries come into our town, and we need houses. But why is it this configuration? And why is it vinyl?
because that is what the market demands, and that's what the market will bear throughout this entire area, except maybe if you get into Carmel and Fishers and some of the more exclusive neighborhoods. But even Avon, even Plainfield, even Greenwood, that vinyl for some reason is a dirty word in some places, particularly here, but in most places it's not even a subject of discussion. It's not.
I cannot concur with that statement.
No, I concur.
You say if you were to go with R1C, you'd have how many fewer lots you could build?
You know, it would be, R1C is 12,000 square foot lot, so it would be basically 20%.
Okay. In infrastructure development, and the number of lots is a fixed cost. A lot of that's based on the economies of scale.
That is correct.
And looking at economies of scale, the cost of building, you're going to have more square footage for sale in the houses than a 1,200 minimum square foot house, yet you reduce the number of lots that have to be developed. Your overall cost works out with the economies of scale, pretty much makes it a wash.
But here they're committing that the minimum square footage will be 1,524, not per the ordinance.
But you're still building it on a very small lot.
And that means number of units sold, number of houses built, and obviously you spread that infrastructure cost across more lots. It can be more affordable for the home.
And
I stand corrected, I didn't say 1,500 feet.
And you are asking for a variance on these from a 40-foot setback to a 30-foot setback.
That would be for another board to determine. Right now, we're asking for R1D. Should the variance not be granted, then they would have to roll with the R1D on, but that is a matter for a different board at a different time. Tonight before you is a request for R1D.
I don't think so. She was asking if there are limits. I don't
Other
believe so.
comments or?
I think we got,
Yeah.
someone else wants to speak.
You want to listen to the
What?
public? You want to, I'm just checking the question she had.
I'm gonna ask for the public after the planning commission is finished asking questions. Are we, okay. If those in the public like to speak, please come up, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Beverly Nay, N-A-Y. I didn't sign because I wasn't aware of the procedure. I live on Duncan Drive, which is right off of Allison Road, and my backyard backs up to the backyards of people on Ferguson Road. So I've lived in that area for 35 years and appreciated all the growth that we've seen through the Heartland Crossing area. One of the things that I want to speak about is the density. Ferguson Road is not a wide road, and it has deep ditches on both sides. County Line Road is also the access off of 67 all the way to Heartland Crossing. That road is traveled by a lot of traffic, and right now the width of the road based on the usage of the road it's not a very wide road either. So with 73 lots put into this area, I feel like the density is too much for the structure of the roads there. And coming off of 67, well, if you're on County Line Road going towards 67, between 6:30 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning, it's very, very crowded. Then if you are there approximately 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, it's also very crowded. So I'm very concerned about putting more people, more cars in a place that the infrastructure is not there to support. Basically, that's my concern, is the density. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get her name and address?
I did not get the full address. If you want to just write it down for me, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public care to speak?
Thank you all for being here this evening, and I was here last month. I know some of you weren't here, and so that's why I chose to come up and speak a little bit. I'm speaking really on behalf of the Allison family. My name is Sharon Tyree. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty, and the question was asked about why the zoning 2 years ago and now they're wanting to change. From the Allisons, and Mr. and Mrs. Allison are here tonight, and I'm just so grateful that they're here to listen to this process. But when they had approached me originally about selling this property, we did some due diligence, and we were really kind of not sure of what was the best use for the property, and we were really relying on the experts. And from Mr. and Mrs. Allison's viewpoint, I think that they were led to believe that that was the best use for the property, would be zoned I-1 industrial. But time has told us that that's not the best use. I've had my name or sign out there, been marketing the property, and there has not been any serious inquiries on that property at all. I've had a few people that want to buy like 1 acre, but the Allisons don't want to start dividing the 30 acres or 27 acres up into just 1 acre lots for one small business and then another one and another one, because that would just be a mess. They want to see this property sold. They are getting to the age in life where they want to make sure that their family is cared for when they're not here. So we have made the decision. They were approached, I've been approached actually by a couple of builders. Pie Builders do have an offer on the property now, but prior to them, we had been approached by another builder. At that time, the Allisons did not want to change the zoning because, again, we've been led to believe that this was best use for the property. And it just comes to reason to show that it's not. There's just been zero interest from that zoning. I feel that for their benefit that, and let me just go back and say this, Mrs. Allison has always envisioned that property to have homes on it. That's what she had hoped that her children would do at some point, but that's what her hope was to always have. I was the real estate agent last month that went door to door in the neighborhood. And I spoke to all the neighbors that answered the door. It was about 5:30 in the evening. I didn't get to speak to everyone because a lot of people weren't home from work yet. But all the neighbors that I spoke to were in favor of the subdivision. They did not want to have a factory across the street. And I remember when the zoning first changed, I was at those meetings. And, you know, when you turn on County Line Road, there's a very mixed feeling there. You're not sure, is this industrial, is this residential? But when you turn on Ferguson, you feel like you're in a residence. I mean, the homes there, there's all houses on Ferguson. There's no industrial. And so for that to change for those homeowners out there, they want to feel like this is a neighborhood to them, and it is their neighborhood. Most of those families, I was so impressed by them, have lived there for years. Their parents lived there, and now they live in their parents' homes. And they really would love to see homes versus factories across the street. I do want to say too, and I know that you guys are a lot more smart about this sort of thing than I am, but the current administration out of the White House has just proposed a $2 trillion plan to include building affordable housing. They are going, in that plan, they're offering $15 billion to builders to come and build affordable housing. These builders are going to have the administration behind them. And that plan that is being presented right now eliminates any exclusionary zoning laws, such as minimal lot sizes, multiple family housing, all of these things, so that they can build homes. We have a crisis in our country, and that is why the federal government is stepping in. And right now, I know that you guys can control this growth.
That was the 5-minute clock. Just
okay.
Think about winding up.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's all I really want to say, but I'm really speaking on behalf of the Allison family, that this is their hope that this happens for them. The zoning change really is not because they had wanted it to be industrial. They were just going from the advice of others that were telling them that was the best use, but we know that it's not.
Who led them to believe that it was the best use, the eye?
We spoke to several through Holloway and the Mooresville, or not Mooresville, I guess it's Morgan County Economic Development Office, and some of those others that we all, had meetings with. But, you know, and if you drive 67 now, there's a lot of bare ground, industrial, and nobody's buying it. And who would want to be not, I mean, I did have a couple inquiries, but they want the vision from 67. They want their business to have that frontage on 67. And out at Ferguson Road, you can't even see it from 67. So for someone to invest that type of money for a business that unless you're going specifically to there, you're not even going to know it's there. So that was a drawback for a couple inquiries we had. But like I said, there's the interest in that property as I-1 is not there at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I don't think that,
If I may.
Just a second.
I think she's already said that somebody led them to believe that industrial was better. So,
Well, I'm going to contradict a lot of what you just heard, but come to the same conclusion that the petitioner is asking you. 2 years ago, the petitioner came to us and asked about rezoning this for industrial development, and the planning commission gave a favorable recommendation to it. The town council approved it. I won. We have been marketing it. They know there has been activity on this property. Sharon's familiar with the fact that, and as I've confidentially explained to the town council members and also the President Planning Commission, I've been working with local businesses. We're trying to keep what we call our smalls, the small manufacturers in our community, as they work to grow over the next couple of years. And we're faced right now with the issue of not having that site. So the option for them was we were selling them on the idea of having the Allison property developed for this light industrial opportunity. We have had 2 developers look at it that have looked at it for the very issue we're talking about now. And on the day that one of the developers was coming down to see it, I sent Sharon a note to say, hey, I have an industrial developer coming down to see the site today. And she said, back in an email, well, that's fine, but we already have an offer on it that is contingent to some things, including zoning. And so we stepped back from that. I've talked to the town council members about the issue that we have with our smalls. We have in particular a number of small manufacturers that we've targeted that are at a critical point right now that we're going to have to try and find a way to keep them in Mooresville over the next couple of years, or they're going to grow away from us. But when the Allisons came forth and said, our economics have changed, our family status has changed, I discussed it with the EDC board, with town council members individually, we recognize, folks, we have a need for this type of housing. You as individuals might not like it, that the density or the lot size, but man, they sell because there's a demand for them. People don't want larger lots these days. They're going to the smaller lot for less maintenance, and they maximize the value of the home that's on the lot. Now, I'm not here to speak to the density, as it were, but I am here to tell you that we support their request to rezone it to residential because we feel it's a win-win for the town and for the county, that we need housing, and it puts the onus on us now to go find that place that we're going to keep our smalls, our small industrialists, and that's what we do for a living. So I hope that helps bring some clarity to you this evening. Thank you.
thank you. I don't think that, was it, oh, yes, sir. Come up and speak, please.
Thank you. I'm Charles Mcguire. I live at 11 State Drive in Mooresville. And before you find out some other way, I am a good friend of the Allison family.
Pull that mask down so we can hear. I think you're far enough away from people that
Okay.
you'll be safe.
At the last meeting, my son Alan was there with me. He's an architect in North Carolina. And he was astounded at the fact that we had 10,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. So I hope the commission doesn't get hung up on 10,000 square foot, because that's a big lot. Other communities have got 6,000 and 7,000 as a minimum for their lower classifications. And if the builder has agreed to build 1,500 square foot homes, that's a large home. And I hate to agree with the guy that just spoke, but I will about folks do not want to mow yards anymore. So I would hope the commission would consider the fact that you are getting a bigger home, and the lot size is very adequate for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
I heard you say, when I went back through the packet that was provided, I don't know if you heard. Are there written commitments attached?
There are not.
Okay, but did I hear you say something about a commitment to
Yes,
increase square footage?
Yes, there would be a commitment that the minimum square footage would be 1,524 square feet. And tonight, we would also commit,
You mean a one-story?
yes.
Because the minimum is, for a one-story is, I guess I'm just, what are you talking about, a one-story or a multi-story?
What, the minimum square footage of living space for one story will be 1,524 square feet.
Now, what's the minimum on a two-story? You're gonna have a minimum?
No, we wouldn't, it could go up to 3,600 square feet.
That's a maximum though,
That's a
are you doing a minimum? Because the minimum under the UDO is 900, are you agreeing to increase that at all?
What would be the minimum square footage on the ground floor for a two-story?
Ground floor or total square footage?
Ground floor.
Ground floor, yeah, 900.
900.
Okay, so it's consistent with the UDO. So are you going to put that in writing?
Yes, we will put that in writing. We've also put in writing the commitment that the first floor, first story of the front facade will be masonry brick. With that and the comments, I would address one comment from one of the audience. They requested the same as we had a commission member ask about traffic and those types of things, and Ferguson Road being relatively narrow. Whatever is required by the county highway engineer as far as safety and those types of things is what we would have to do, along with whatever a traffic study might require. So those are things for the planning phase of this petition and this journey. So that would have to be addressed, and whatever it would take to get a permit for access onto Ferguson Road, we would have to do, or the project does not proceed. It's that simple. With that, we would ask for a favorable recommendation of the council for R1D for this development, approximately 27.4 acres. With that, thank you.
Being consistent with other petitions that have been presented, one of them tonight, this square footage is less. There's no improvement to this over the one that we turned down, so I can't see, to be fair, how we could send an unfavorable recommendation to the previous presentation and pass this one. I don't understand that. Pardon? I'm still thinking, please. There's got to be a way that to make this subdivision more desirable. And I would agree to put a subdivision there if it was more desirable. But being consistent with what we've just sent an unfavorable recommendation, I don't understand where we're going. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion based on the commitment to make a 1,524 square foot minimum on the ground floor, but as motion is stated. And also commenting that this is a different situation because of existing zoning than the previous project that we looked at. as presented by Mr. Holloway in the square footage.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Motion does not carry. Do we have another motion?
Less than 2 years ago, we were convinced that the best use of this property was from ag to I-1. Given the comprehensive plan and what was planned for this, I still believe that petitioner today. And so I'll make a motion that we have an unfavorable recommendation to the town council and keep it as I-1.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Unfavorable recommendation to town council.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mike, may I have that vote, please?
You oppose, call for oppose.
Yeah, she needs to know who opposed. Please, who voted in favor?
Oh, raise your hands who voted in favor of the
If you
last.
voted in favor of the last one, raise your hand.
Okay.
Mark?
Mark, Mike, Josh. Okay, thank you.
And then do you want to call for opposed?
Opposed?
Did you get?
Does anybody want to abstain or do you want to?
Abstain or opposed?
Abstain.
Who abstained?
You going to abstain?
Yeah. What do you want to do? Abstain or opposed?
He votes no. Okay.
Who votes no?
Did you get that, Mary?
Who abstained?
I did.
Oh, thank you.
And he votes no.
The next one is a rezone at 67, and he's already up here. It's been a long night. And then we got a concept plan for 67.
Thank you. For the record, my name is David Gilman. My office is at 211 South Ritter Avenue, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46219. My client is Dennis Zalay. Mr. Zalay owns property at 10015 North Old State Road 67. There are two parcels that Mr. Zalay purchased. One at 1.62 that's got had an older single-family home that he completely remodeled with 100% brick and masonry around the entire structure. So he is looking to build a detached garage, and I've handed out a binder for each Plan Commission member, and I'd be glad to go through that with you at this time. So the first tab, what I've done is got the Plan Commission narrative. Gives a little background. About a year ago, March 13th, we came before the Plan Commission and we got the southern 1.5 acre zone for I-1. And Mr. Zalay has a masonry construction contracting business, and he's going to build a 6,000 square foot building there for his office and his building, or his masonry business. And I think there was some outdoor storage approved, but it was all subject to a detailed site plan. And then on the north acre, 1.62 acres, he purchased a older single-family home, which he's done a beautiful job and remodeled that. So the reason we're here tonight is he would like to build a detached garage. While it seems rather a simple request, that garage, because both of these lots, especially the northern lot, is more of a pie shape, as it narrows toward Old State Road 67, he runs out of enough lot width to put a detached garage up beside the house. We really don't have room to put it behind the house because of the new septic system he put in, and then he's got some beautiful mature hickory trees that we're trying to preserve. The request then is to take a very small portion, and if you go to tab 3, you'll see the aerial in tab 3 of both parcels combined, and the red dot is the existing house. We'll flip that one aerial to the next page, And this is the site plan that's going to be part of the first agenda item, the rezoning that we would ask this board to consider. The existing house, you see it drawn on there. Then you see the detached garage. Well, that little area is zoned I-1 industrial, and the house sits on the original AG zoned property. So now I have a proposed detached garage that straddles two zoning districts. So after talking with Tim Bennett, and I think he had consulted some other folks about, we needed to have both zoning districts the same in order to pull a building permit for that detached garage.
So you're gonna go I-1 to ag?
Yes, so we will take 0.1096, so right at a tenth of an acre. We would want to go back from the I-1 that you zoned last year. We want to take that back to AG so that the house and the garage all fits within the same residential zoning district. And that's the first part of the request that I have on your agenda. With the permission from the board, if you would like, I could explain the second part because they're very much related. And you could take separate votes, or you could stop me and we could act on one and then I could continue into the other. But that is the first part of mine.
Do the other, and then we'll decide if we want to take two different votes. I think it explains the entire picture better to everyone.
Okay. Well, if you just split past the next page, in that same tab 3, you'll see the original development plan that was approved for Mr. Soleil's industrial building. Then you see the proposed garage. Well, because we had to take away that tenth of an acre out of the industrial site plan, the ordinance would require me to come back to this board and amend my concept plan to show you how it's changed. And what we've done is we basically shifted the entrance a little bit. We've taken some parking that would have been where the detached garage is, and we put that parking in front of the building. And at one point, we had a 1,200 square foot office area that was part of our original plan. We've eliminated that altogether, so it's just going to be the contractor building, parking along the front. So that's basically the change, and we've shifted some landscaping over closer to the parking lot. But that's the basic concept plan changes. And so that would be the second part of our request. Should you grant us a favorable recommendation for the rezone, then we would ask that you grant us a favorable recommendation to amend the site plan, which we previously submitted to this board and you approved.
So both of these would be a favorable recommendation to the town council.
I don't know about the amended site plan. You'd have to help me with that.
The second part would not be, the first part, just the first part.
Just the reason, okay.
Okay, definitely the reason. The concept plan would stay here.
Okay. And so what I wanted to do is to make sure that I did include in tab 4 standards for evaluating a zoning map change. This zoning request is ag. From industrial to ag. It is not consistent because this residential lot was within an area that is recommended for light industrial. But we're only asking a tenth of an acre of this industrial zoning be reverted back to the ag. And the fact that the home has been extensively remodeled, we think the highest and best use for that particular piece of property should remain residential at this time because of the substantial investment my clients made in the house to bring it back to its original splendor, and then to add the garage that I've shared with you, and I'll get to that in a minute. We think that this is a very minor deviation to your recommendation of your comprehensive plan, and it would not impede any future development for industrial use in this area. The proposed rezoning would basically just allow for the construction of a detached garage. And really, that's the gist of evaluating our zoning map change as it relates to the comprehensive plan. We do have the project routing sheet that everybody's signed off, so all of the other department heads have seen and are aware of our proposal. And then finally, my last tab is the legal requirements for the notification, and I always want to include those in case there are demonstrators or people in the audience that may or may not have received a notice and wondered why. And then if you look in the pouch up front, you'll see the elevation of the detached garage. So you'll have a stone, natural stone trim around the bottom, and then it'll be brick veneer for the rest of the structure. And then it'll have 2 overhead doors with a glass block feature that would mimic that same glass block that is shown on the existing residence, so it does have a lot of architectural compatibility. With that, I would open it up for questions that board members or members of the audience would have for me.
I think at the tech meeting, we had some discussion on this, and you indicated that Mr. Bennett walked you through this and gave you some guidance and said that he would confirm that this is acceptable to him.
Yes, exactly. Because we wanted to go and revert something back to what was previously approved, we both sat down and I said, this is how I think I understand the ordinance and the zoning process. He consulted my understanding with the person who helped write the UDO for Mooresville.
Okay.
And she concurred that rezoning needed to be done so that the property and the structure had the same zoning, because setbacks are important at that point. And the other one was, yes, if the plan commission amended or approved the site plan and that was a self-imposed commitment on my part, then that would have to be amended as well. And so that's why we're bringing that portion back. And then because we are changing these property lines, we're also going to agree to do a retracement survey so that both properties will now have new deeds that'll be recorded because they're not platted. And this is something that we felt was important to what I'm going to call monumentalize these new lot lines that we're creating by taking that 1/10 of an acre from one side and flipping it over to the other. So we thought that would be a good way to make sure that the assessor captured it. That's all.
I think she has some.
Can you help, I'm sorry, can you just kind of help me understand this and forgive my ignorance
That's
on it?
fine.
First of all, do you have a residence on an I-1?
No. No, the residence never was part of the rezoning. Only, there are 2 lots. The 1.62 acre.
This is the picture I'm looking at. So this is not actually correct. Is this platted differently? Are there separate lots?
There are 2 meets and bound lots in that area.
Okay, that's part of why my head is spinning.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the lot lines are.
This might help you.
Is that the one I had it's in the packet? Let me see.
Oh, that's not the one you passed out.
Yeah, that depicts it very well.
Sorry we didn't have you that early.
And I have a couple more if anybody else wants to see the larger master.
So,
Okay, so this over here is ag.
you want to see
Just
This
the
is
house,
over-
okay.
oh,
Yeah,
this is-
that's residential.
Oh, this is
ag.
the residential.
Yes, that's the house there.
Okay,
And see the proposed garage next to it? Right there. So that little area,
you want to carve this and
we're
make
going
this,
to make that ag.
and you're going to replat it?
Well, we're going to do retracement surveys and record those deeds.
Okay, so my lines will be different.
Your lines will be different, that's correct.
And will he have to bring that back here? After the...
Where are you
I
in
would
the
think
process
I've been a
right
replatting process, but I guess it's,
Well,
according to Tim, it's not?
no, because it's an exchange of land between the same property owner that doesn't create a new building lot isn't subject to platting. It doesn't meet that quote-unquote definition of a plat or of a subdivision of land. So all we're doing is shifting our lot line between 2 lots that we already own, and one of them's already developed. So the retracement survey is the best way to monumentalize that shift of
With new legal descriptions.
common lot line with new legal descriptions and new deeds.
My head hurts less now.
You okay?
Sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to make sure if I had to pull a legal description somewhere that it accurately reflects
And
what
it
it's going
absolutely
to
will,
be.
yeah. And if you want, we'll make that as a commitment so that it won't just get lost in the discussion that I'm presenting tonight. So that would be the self-imposed commitment that we do a retracement survey and record 2 separate deeds.
I would ask that if there's a motion made, that be part of the motion.
Yes, and that could be motion for either one, it doesn't matter, or both. It could be on both, it doesn't matter.
I think we'd have to do it as a part of the,
Rezone.
that's part, because it doesn't exist to rezone it yet. So we'd have to move things first and then rezone afterwards, I would think. I mean, as one thing. It would have to be part of the rezone.
I think we're getting advice from probably Debbie Lazier, who did the UDO.
That makes, he never mentioned her name, but that's probably who we talked to.
That's just advice. I think that we have to listen to our legal counsel
Correct.
here.
Correct. I understand what she's saying.
Yeah.
So do we rezone and then,
You need to take 2 separate votes because
Yeah, I
the
know
first one
that.
goes to council.
first one goes to council, next one doesn't, so
So just as a point to can I ask our attorney a question?
yes. No, we cannot.
At the risk of your head spinning again.
Yeah.
Is,
Don't do this.
so redoing this line here does not require a replat based upon what you heard. Is that true?
That's what he is representing.
Yes.
Okay. So if we redraw this line in conjunction with rezoning this piece of property here from this one to this one, that's acceptable from what I heard you say.
That, I have not researched that.
Okay.
Because I also thought that needed replatting, and what we're being told
It doesn't.
is that it doesn't because it's the same owner. And its owner is going to transfer fee simple to fee simple of a certain particular area if it was 2 separate persons. Now, if that's incorrect, if we're being told incorrect, then this is, it's because it's illegal. So.
Right.
The other thing is this has never been platted before, so if it were lot 1 and 2 and we were doing this, yeah, we'd have to replat because you have to do it in the same manner in which it was created. These are meets and bounds between 2 of the same property owners. It's not creating a new building site. An exchange of land between 2 property owners that does not create a new building site is it subject to platting.
In other words, they're subdividing. Correct? We're subdividing, is that right? The same kind of language?
It's by definition, it's not subdividing for the purposes of the subdivision control ordinance.
20 acres. He's right. Required.
Is that?
He's right.
And I don't know how to, there's an Indiana Code 36-7-4-714 is what describes it.
Okay.
But yes, being a subdivision administrator and planning director and doing this for many, many years, that has always been our understanding.
If he's being inconsistent, then the recorder's office will have a problem with this and it will come back.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly why that's why we're agreeing to the retracement survey and creating those separate deeds.
Yeah, if they won't
Can't imagine
record
as a subject matter expert that you'd be here misrepresenting this, so.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to ensure that I knew what we were doing here. So.
Clear as mud?
No, it's okay.
So after the retracement, then you'll do the legal description.
Yeah, the retracement will create the 2 new legals, 2 new deeds, and those deeds will be recorded.
Legals, because you don't have that right now. Is that what I understood?
Meets and bounds. Yeah, there'd be a meets and bounds description.
Great.
So you're asking for
We're gonna do
a
recommendation.
You're asking, so what you're asking for is us to have a favorable recommendation on the retracement and rezoning of this piece of property.
Did you make that motion?
Well, no, I'm asking if that's what we're doing here.
The way I understand this is I'm asking for a recommendation on petition 21-054 for a favorable recommendation to rezone .0109 acres, whatever, from AG from I1 to Ag, with the commitment that a retracement survey and deeds be recorded for the new described parcel. That's one vote. Then the second vote is to amend the site plan that you previously approved.
Sure, and that one is clearer.
Pretty, yeah.
You don't need to repeat, just say,
Yes, yes.
make a motion,
Okay.
make a motion as stated here.
Don't give me credit.
Because I bet Mary has reported it.
You're good at Mary.
Oh, yeah.
And you can impose a 5-minute rule on me anytime.
Sure, no, that's fine.
No, it's not on
Just
here.
you get more than that.
Okay. Are we
You
at
have
the
the
point
floor.
that you want a motion, or do we need to hear more?
Oh, wait, is anybody in the audience? We gotta ask that. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue? Anyone else from the planning commission? So we therefore have a motion.
I will make that motion as she suggested. What the petitioner has stated, as long as Mary can record it in the minutes, correct?
I'll go over the words with him.
Do we have a second? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Now,
Please
to
may
the
I ask who
concept.
seconded?
Is it David?
David?
Yeah.
Dave Sadler, thank you.
What do we do on the concept plan now?
Do you want more explanation from him, or are you
Well,
ready to
yes,
vote?
well, I think we should go.
I think we're.
The motion I would be seeking from this board is to approve an amended concept plan as presented on 4/8 that was previously approved by this commission on 3/12, 3/13.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
There you go.
Mark made that motion,
Thank
made
you.
a second.
David?
David, all those in favor? Very good.
Thank you very much.
Now, the first one was to the town council, the next one was not.
Okay. May I have these back if you guys don't mind? I can try to repurpose them for
Sure.
future
For
hearings.
recycling, that's wonderful.
We ought to keep one for the record.
Yes, please.
We'll keep that. Oh, we got one.
Make life a lot
We
easier.
need one for the record.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a primary plat at 100 Sun Polymer Drive.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Give one to, do you have enough of one more here? If not, I'll leave it.
I'll let my head spin somewhere.
Well, come on, knock your phone off again. One more. We're good, John.
Thank you, John Larison again from Hadley Engineering. This plat is being presented on behalf of both Sun Polymers and Hill Water Company. To orient you, the second page shows this 4.08 acre parcel and where it sits in the overall PUDI, known as Meadowbrook Business Park. Ambassador Steel is Block A. Lot B1 is the Reed City Power Supply Company. And this is the gap, the basically 485-foot gap between Reed City Power Supply and the Turner residence. What we've done is take the southwest corner of Turner, extended it all the way over to the east line of Reed City Power Supply. It's 4.08 acres after the 25-foot right-of-way is taken out, and it's for the purpose of a water treatment plant for Hill Water.
Questions? Questions or comments from the board?
Will you need to do any variances because of this?
None that we've encountered yet. Now, when we do go to put the site plan together, we'll investigate that a little further, but none that we know of at this time.
Okay.
Anyone from the public wish to speak? Back to the planning commission for questions, comments, or a motion to approve the primary plat for Hillwater, 4.085 acres.
So moved.
We have a motion by Dave. Have a second? We have a second by Josh. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Permits and inspections. Does anybody have that number? Any new business or old business?
Can we ask Mary to get with Tim to get those numbers for our minutes?
Yes. Can you get with Tim and get the numbers for the permits and inspections?
Sure.
Please.
Thank you.
If there's no new business, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Motion
Beth
carries.
wants to get home.
I'm sorry, who made the motion, who seconded it? I seconded.
Josh made the
Thanks,
motion
Josh.
and Kim made the second. Sorry, Mary.
Two cases where you made verbal written commitments, would you send that to me? So I just send messages to the town attorney who normally does the council meetings, but it's just so much easier.
Oh, right.
If I can say,